I'm turning 81 this year, and folks around me often say, I've lived long enough to see it all. Well, almost. I've seen America go through countless changes, from watching neighbors help each other raise barns to a more digital era where my grandkids teach me how to use smartphones. But one thing that hasn't changed is our yearning for freedom. Freedom to decide when we eat, what we do in our spare time, and who we share our joys and sorrows with. That longing for autonomy doesn't magically fade when our hair turns gray or our steps become slower. Yet for many older adults here in the United States, the promise of simpler living in a nursing home sometimes comes with hidden compromises, freedoms slipping away before they even notice. I'm not here to condemn all nursing homes. Some do a wonderful job, but I've observed through personal experiences and countless conversations that certain freedoms can be quietly taken away. People don't talk about it enough, and those who face it often do so in silence. Years ago, when my late friend Barbara moved into a nursing home, she swore she felt safer and more cared for, only to later realize her daily life had become a regimented checklist run by others. The heartbreak in her eyes still haunts me, especially when she shared her regret at having overlooked these losses of independence. There's a quote I love, often attributed to Mark Twain: "Age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter." But I do mind when my peers or I can no longer choose what time to rise in the morning or who can visit. I mind when subtle rules and restrictions whittle away our dignity. Perhaps some of you watching this video are considering a nursing home for yourself, a parent, or a beloved relative. Some might have already taken this step and felt that twinge of regret. I invite you to stay with me as I reveal 6 ways nursing homes can rob us of our freedom, often without our full awareness. If any of these points touch your heart, please comment with the number 5 somewhere below. I want to hear your voice, know your story, and help one another see that we're not alone. Now, let's begin. 1. The disappearing daily routine. For most of my life, I woke up around 6 a.m., brewed a cup of coffee, and sat on my porch to greet the sunrise. No one told me I had to do it, but it became a cherished part of my day. When I visited my cousin Beth in her nursing home in upstate New York, I saw something different. She was required to wake up at a set time, 7:30 a.m., no earlier, no later, because that's when the staff came to help her wash and dress. She used to love early mornings as much as I do. Now she had to lie in bed waiting if she rose earlier than the staff's schedule. This might sound minor. What's the harm in an organized routine, right? Yet over time, losing control of your own schedule can chip away at your independence. You're suddenly asking permission for the simplest things. May I get up now, or do I have to wait to shower? It's disheartening. For an older person who's used to living life on their own terms, this can create a sense of helplessness. There's that creeping feeling, if I can't decide when to get dressed, what else can't I decide? The situation grows more unsettling when special activities are only available at certain times. If Beth wanted to read in the common area late at night, she'd often find the doors locked or the lights off. It left her with an odd sense of confinement. The initial promise was, "We'll take care of you," but part of that care involved regimenting her day. Before she knew it, she had lost her casual spontaneity. No more impromptu walks around the garden or midnight snack run. "Regret is building," she once admitted, tears brimming in her eyes. "I feel like the days get decided for me." That's the core of this problem. Once you're on someone else's timetable, you start losing faith in your own choices. If you or a loved one is considering a nursing home, take a moment to reflect. Will you be allowed to keep your own schedule? Freedom doesn't have to mean chaos. It can simply mean picking your own bedtime or choosing whether you'd like cereal or bacon for breakfast. If you're like me and value that sense of choice, be sure to ask specific questions, no matter how small. And if this resonates with you, comment with the number 2. I'd love to see how many of us share this concern. 2. The quiet erosion of personal preferences. I remember how I used to spend Sundays listening to old country songs, Patsy Cline, Hank Williams, songs that made me feel alive and connected to my younger self. One day, during a visit to another friend's nursing home lounge, I noticed all the TVs blaring modern reality shows and game shows. The staff explained it was communal entertainment, so personal headphones or a separate TV channel might not be practical. There was no quiet reading corner with gentle music, no separate space for different tastes. Over time, these small compromises add up. You realize your favorite tunes or activities aren't accessible, or worse, are deemed unnecessary. The staff might say, "We'll see if we can fit that in," but daily tasks and routine chores usually take precedence. Personal preferences become secondary in a system designed to manage large groups of seniors at once. This kind of environment, though it provides certain benefits like meals and medical care, can inadvertently dampen individuality. Not only that, dietary preferences often get overlooked. My friend Michael, also in his 80s, had a lifelong love for hot, spicy chili. When he moved into a nursing home in California, he found the cafeteria meals too bland, designed for the average taste of residents. Requests for something spicier were met with polite nods, but rarely acted upon. "After all these years, I'm stuck with meals that don't excite me," he complained. A small thing maybe, but losing control of your food preferences, your choice of entertainment, your environment, these daily little joys vanish bit by bit. When you add them together, you realize you're living someone else's life. The moment you surrender these small pleasures, you start feeling the intangible weight of losing yourself. Then come the regrets. Why didn't I check how flexible the home was? Did I hastily sign those forms? If you're still with me, consider dropping a comment with the number 3, because acknowledging even these small losses can help us reevaluate how we want to live out our later years. Perhaps you still have time to make changes, or at least ensure your personal preferences remain respected. 3. The hidden impact of limited social interaction. They say no man is an island, but I'd argue that seniors can feel most like deserted islands when placed in an environment that restricts or dilutes meaningful connections. The first time I realized this was after I moved from Arkansas to a senior community in Florida. Not exactly a nursing home, but close in spirit. My neighbors were friendly enough, yet we found our visits heavily monitored by staff, especially for folks in more controlled wings of the facility. If you're in a nursing home, sometimes the sign-in process for visitors can be daunting, the visiting hours can be strict, and spontaneity goes out the window. My friend Lillian in Chicago described how her adult daughter flew in to surprise her on a random Wednesday afternoon. But the facility had guidelines around visiting only during certain flexible hours, so her daughter ended up sitting in the lobby for an hour, waiting for staff approval. By the time Lillian found out, the surprise was spoiled. Lillian felt a pang of disappointment, but more so a loss of freedom. The sense that you can't just open your door and welcome loved ones whenever you please can tear at your heart. Worse still, if you're someone who thrives on daily calls or face-to-face chats, some nursing homes might not facilitate that personal contact. Staff might be friendly on the surface, but they're often overworked and juggling numerous responsibilities. As a result, residents can end up feeling alone even in a building full of people. The quiet hallway becomes a metaphor for the isolation many experience. You can practically hear the echo of your own footsteps. This phenomenon leads to a kind of silent heartbreak. You lose the freedom to maintain the relationships that used to nurture your spirit. Without that freedom, depression can creep in. If you're hearing this and thinking, "Oh my gosh, that could happen to me or to my mother," then I encourage you to comment with the number 8. It's a small gesture, but maybe it helps us see we're not isolated. After all, many older Americans love the quote often ascribed to Maya Angelou. "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So let's keep making each other feel heard and cherished, no matter our age. 4. The subtle restriction on self-expression. One of the best parts of aging is discovering the confidence to express yourself. You realize life is precious, so you savor every creative outlet, whether that's painting, knitting, writing, or simply telling stories. Yet, in a nursing home setting, these freedoms can be limited or funneled through pre-arranged activities. You might find art hour is on Tuesdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., And if that doesn't align with your best energy window, tough luck. When my neighbor Deborah turned 75, she wanted to paint a mural in her nursing home's recreation room. She'd been an art teacher for decades in Vermont and had an eye for color that could light up a room. But the administration hesitated. They worried about property damage, liability issues, and whether other residents would appreciate her style. Eventually, Deborah was allowed to paint something small on a canvas that was later hung, but the original dream of painting a large mural that all could enjoy was trimmed back to something manageable. She was grateful for the opportunity, but you could see how the constraints dampened her spirit. Self-expression also ties back to how we decorate our personal space. Maybe you have old family heirlooms or photos from that cross-country trip you took in your 40s. Nursing homes often have rules about what you can hang on the walls, how many personal items you can keep, or even whether you can repaint your room. Before you know it, you're living in a place that doesn't reflect your true self, and the very mementos that keep you grounded can be locked away in storage. These rules might be in place for safety or standardization, but the unintended consequence is a slow fade of individuality, and once your sense of self starts slipping, it can feel like losing a precious friend. For me, that friend was my old record collection. Glenn Miller, Duke Ellington, you name it. I love rummaging through those vinyls, but I've known homes that discourage personal electronics like record players for fear of the cords becoming a trip hazard. If this stirs any memories in you, or if you worry your creative spark might be dimmed, drop a comment with the number 9. It's a simple way of saying, I'm still here and I value my uniqueness. 5. The unseen consequences of over-medication and over-reliance on rules. In many nursing homes, medication schedules are tightly regulated, and often for good reason. But I've witnessed how easy it becomes for staff to rely on medication as a quick fix for seniors who might be restless or anxious. My good friend Ronald, a veteran who once roamed the country on a motorcycle, ended up on antidepressants and sleep aids the moment he expressed difficulty adapting to nursing home life. He was a spirited soul who just needed more engaging activities, not necessarily heavier medication. Once a senior is on these meds, it can lead to drowsiness and mental fog that in turn curtails their ability to participate in daily decisions. They might sleep through the day or become so lethargic they lose interest in what used to make them happy. Soon staff see them as in need of more care rather than in need of more meaningful engagement. It's a cycle that can quietly rob seniors of the freedom to remain alert and active, all under the guise of keeping them calm or ensuring compliance. Alongside medication, there's often an over-reliance on rules that are designed to protect. Rules like strict meal times, mandatory group activities, and limited mobility without staff supervision can create a prison-like environment. Sure, we want our loved ones to be safe, but do we want them to live life confined by an endless checklist? It's like that old adage, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I'm not saying nursing home staff have ill intentions, but sometimes the quest for order overshadows the nuance of personal freedom. For seniors, that can create a sense of deep frustration. Imagine feeling physically fine but being told you can't go for a walk outside without someone watching you because it's against protocol. A normal adult life is about choice. Sometimes we take a risk or decide to wander outside just to see the sunset. When all choices are filtered through caution, a piece of our humanity is lost. If you're reading this and thinking, yes, caution is good, but we still need a life worth living, comment with the number 4. Maybe that small act of responding can remind us there's strength in questioning overly restrictive rules. 6. The eroding sense of privacy and personal boundaries. One of my biggest fears about moving into any communal setting is losing the privacy I treasured my entire life. In a nursing home, staff often have to enter your room to bring medication, help with personal hygiene, or do routine checks. While that's important for safety, it can feel invasive, like having your personal sanctuary constantly under observation. My dear friend Harriet in Washington told me she felt uneasy every time a staff member knocked, then walked in a split second later. She rarely had enough time to say, "I'm dressing," or "hold on a moment." That lack of privacy can be worsened if the facility shares rooms or has thin walls. Seniors accustomed to living alone or with family might find themselves overwhelmed by shared living conditions. You can't blast your favorite music without disturbing someone else, nor can you have intimate personal conversations without worrying about eavesdroppers. Over time, Harriet became less talkative and more reclusive. "I don't have a place to think my own thoughts," she lamented, a sorrowful reflection of how her sense of ownership over her life had slipped away. This extends to personal autonomy over finances, mail, or even phone calls. Some nursing homes, though well-intentioned, set up systems where staff handle essential paperwork for you. While that's convenient if you have difficulty managing mail or bills, it can feel like you're losing control over your personal affairs. If no one consults you, or if they assume they know best, you might discover decisions have been made on your behalf without your understanding. This can generate a feeling of vulnerability and fear. If you've ever felt the dread of losing your own voice, please comment with 6 somewhere below. I'd like to know how many of us value that sacred space of privacy, no matter how old we are. When these 6 aspects blend together, you may start to feel trapped. Independence is precious at any age, but I believe it becomes even more vital in our golden years. Freedom is the oxygen of the soul, as someone once said. Living without it, or with an ever-diminishing supply, can choke the spirit. Yet before we conclude, I want to emphasize this crucial point. Not every nursing home is bad. In my decades on this earth, I've encountered caring individuals who strive to respect seniors' dignity. Some places offer flexible schedules, accommodate personal preferences, and encourage family visits at almost any time. But it's equally true that many establishments, whether due to budget constraints, understaffing, or inflexible management, slowly strip away freedoms without the residents fully understanding it. This video is my way of sharing personal stories and experiences, so you can make informed decisions whether for yourself, your spouse, or your beloved parents. Sometimes older adults end up feeling like they have no choice. Their health is frail, they can't manage day-to-day chores alone, and a nursing home appears to be the only way forward. Have I failed as a senior if I can't live independently? Is a question that haunts many. My stance is simple. Accepting help is never a failure. But if you decide on professional care, it's worth doing thorough research and asking pointed questions. Demand clarity on visitation policies, personal space allowances, meal options, social activities, and how staff handle medication and routines. I recall a quote from George Bernard Shaw: "We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing." This resonates with me deeply as I hover in my 80s, reflecting on the friends I've lost, the mistakes I've seen, and the regrets that weigh on so many hearts. One big regret is not asking enough questions before settling into a new living arrangement. Another is giving up too soon on the little freedoms that make life worth living, like deciding when to play, when to rest, when to create. So, here's my wish for you. Never surrender your curiosity, and never relinquish your voice. If you're considering a nursing home, be prepared to protect the freedoms that define you. Maybe you can negotiate your personal schedule. Maybe you can ensure guests have open access to visit. Perhaps your prospective nursing home allows you to maintain those small but significant personal habits, spicy chili for dinner, or a midnight read by the window. If something matters to you, don't be afraid to speak up. You deserve to live your twilight years on terms that honor your individuality. And for family members watching, know that your involvement matters. Visit often, even if you have to jump through a few hoops. Bring a little piece of home, favorite foods, familiar books, or comforting music. Advocate on behalf of your loved one if you suspect they've lost freedoms they cherish. That kind of consistent engagement can make an enormous difference in how seniors experience life within a facility. I promised a key lesson, and here it is. Freedom might look different for each of us, but it remains a core human need, especially in our final chapters. Losing it quietly can be more heartbreaking than losing it abruptly. When we reach this age, we want our choices to be heard, our routines to be respected, and our privacy to be valued. If you're not ready to lose those freedoms, be vigilant and choose wisely. As a next step, if you found this discussion meaningful, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos on topics like independent living and home care solutions. I also invite you to comment with any single-digit number that reflects your biggest takeaway from this video, whether it's 2 for maintaining a personal schedule or 9 for preserving your uniqueness. Each number tells me where our common ground lies, and each comment helps more people see this video. Thank you for listening to my story and sharing your own experiences. Regret is often linked to what we didn't say or do, but we can lessen those regrets by speaking up now, for ourselves and our loved ones. A nursing home doesn't have to be a place where freedom dies. If we stand for the belief that seniors should be treated with the dignity, respect, and personal choice they've earned over a lifetime, wherever you find yourself in this journey, I hope you carry these reflections with you. And remember, as one wise person said, it's never too late to be who you might have been. Stay mindful, stay hopeful, and never stop playing at life. I'll see you next time.